Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to the Time for Change Meet Success podcast. And tonight we are with two of our United States veterans, Army veterans. We have Mr. Roscoe Campbell, a veteran of over 26 years of service, and we have Pastor Willie T. Lawson, a veteran of the U.S. Army with over 20 years of service. And I am the lone U.S. Air Force veteran when I have a little bit over 4 years of service. And tonight we are talking to our servicemen and servicewomen, especially those veterans who are dealing with anxiety, depression, PTSD, other chronic illnesses that they are just coping with. And we want to give some perspective to the world through this podcast of other options other than the current treatment they are receiving. So with no further ado, we're going to get right into this, and we're going to start with Mr. Roscoe Campbell, and we're going to talk about his connection to CBD and how he has used it and continues to use it to help him with his own medical battle. So Mr. Campbell, Roscoe, thank you so much for being on this podcast. And if you could just, tell the people a little bit about you first, and then let's get into how you're utilizing CBD to help you with your ailments.
Absolutely. Before we get started, I just want to give it back to you, Brother Troy. I mean, the work you're doing to enrich people's lives, you're adding tremendous value to everyone, especially our family, giving us this opportunity to share ways that we can live a better life based upon the experiences we've had in our current journey. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really grateful.
You are so welcome.
You're welcome. First, I want to just quickly let you know I was in, as you mentioned, a little over 26 years, almost 27 years. Retired as a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army. The thing that I'm so honored is the opportunity to work with some of the finest young men, women, and civilians in this country, because freedom is not free, and these individuals made tremendous sacrifices to ensure the freedom of those of us, not only in this country, but throughout the world. So I'm very honored to be able to play a small part in that journey. In that process, I was privileged to lead these individuals in Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm. And in doing that, near the end, when we actually had positioned ourselves to cause Saddam Hussein to surrender, it was the decision to blow up his ammunition and things like that so that he wouldn't be able to retaliate at the event we were to leave the country, which was projected for the withdrawal. In that process, he intentionally, from what we were able to determine, took all the markings off of his ammunition that indicated nuclear, chemical, biological weapons. And so when we put all of the rounds together with the regular ammunition, we also had in there, unbeknownst, chemical and biological weapons as well, because there was no markings. We blew all of that up. It caused, obviously, a very large explosion of all the ammunition, and it then released the chemical and nerve agents and things like that into the atmosphere. I was within the radius, the bursting radius of this explosion. We didn't put on our gas masks or anything like that because there was no indication that we were to be expecting any chemical or nerve attack. In that process, I was so blessed all of our men and women were safe and most of them were not affected. I didn't think I had been affected either. However, as time went on, around about 2011, my doctor contacted me and said, I want to do an exam. I just think maybe there's some side effects to the medication that may be negatively affecting your liver. I said, oh, that's not good, but let's go ahead and do it. So she did it, and she called me back, but she wouldn't tell me on the phone the results of the examination, which normally she just says there's no problem and leaves a message. When she finally reached me, I said, Doc, why didn't you just tell me on the phone that the test came out okay? She said, well, the test did come out okay. I said, well, that's great. She said, but there's another issue. I said, what is that? She said, I found a node on your pancreas. I said, excuse me, where did that come from? She said, I have no idea, but I'd like to get it examined. We examined it and found out that there was a node on my pancreas, and they wanted to research to see if it was cancerous. My oncologist said it was not cancerous, so let's wait and see if it's cancer. I said, no, go ahead and take it out. So I had 8-hour surgery in 2012 to remove the node that they did not believe was cancerous. After the surgery, they found out it actually was cancerous. So praise the Lord, we took it out in time, because that's a pretty serious event. And I asked him, what caused the cancer? He said, I don't know, maybe you were exposed to something. Were you exposed to anything previous? I said, well, I was over in Desert Storm and was in an explosion that affected nerve gas and chemicals. He said, well, I don't know for sure if that caused it, but you definitely had cancer. Subsequent to that, I had several complications as a result of the pancreatic surgery, because I had situations where I had actual pancreatic fluid lodged incorrectly in my body. All these things, mysteriously, medically, they don't know why they occurred. They know something happened, but they didn't know why. The bottom line for me was that in this process, I had 5 cancer surgeries and cancer-related surgeries, and technically was supposed to have died medically 6 times as a result of these complications. So thank you so much, everyone, for your prayers. As things continue, I started thinking to myself, what can I do to make myself stronger? And I started taking supplements from our opportunity. At this point, we had niagen. And so I kept taking niagen on a daily basis. And then as a result of the complications, and because I had so many emergency room visits and follow-up visits and hospital stays from the surgeries, I wasn't as active, and I came up with blood clots, starting in my leg and working up to my brain. And so in 2012 is when I had the cancer surgery. In 2014, I had a massive stroke, one of 3 strokes to follow. So when I had this massive stroke, the doctors couldn't understand why I didn't die immediately, because it was massive. And so after they stabilized me using a TPA shot, which is supposed to just come out, it's supposed to help you prevent paralysis as long as you got it within 4 hours from the stroke, which I was blessed to, thanks to my wife, Summer, actually getting me to the hospital immediately. So when the doctors did an analysis, they said, we can't understand why you're alive. We don't mean that in a negative way, because obviously you're alive, but we just can't figure out how you didn't have permanent brain damage because of the massive stroke. What have you been doing different than you had been before? I said, I've been taking our supplemental products, niagen, and they said, well, it looks like your brain has been coated with something. We have to assume it's the niagen, but we don't know for sure, other than keep taking it. So I did that, and then as time went on, I had additional strokes. I had another stroke in 2016 and another stroke in 2017. in that process, I said, now I've got to live longer. There's a reason I survived the 6 near deaths, as they said medically, from the cancer. And now here I've survived 4 actual near deaths from the massive stroke and the supplemental strokes that they later determined was seizures. And so I started taking our products now known as Oxzgen to ensure that I could build my system up to a homeostasis or stable state to offset the permanent damage done to my brain from the actual massive stroke. So I started taking CBD. I started drinking coffee every day. I started using tea as different times, but I constantly was inputting CBD or cannabidiol oil into my system on a daily basis. Okay, and it was just amazing how my neurologist was saying your nervous system is responding so quickly, your brain is so sharp. It's hard for us, even me, to really comprehend that you had this massive stroke because you're recovering so rapidly. It's amazing. I attribute that to the CBD, and I shared that with the doctor. And in fact, as we currently speak, he's looking at the opportunity to see if he can't consider getting involved himself because he sees the positive impact that it's had upon me. So what we did, Troy and Pastor, is I said to myself, I'm going to commit the rest of my life to try and work with veterans who have been exposed to combat-related situations and those who've had the same negative experiences that I've had, especially from the Desert Storm era and other challenges that we've had to face overseas and sometimes even in our own country. And so finally, to kind of wrap things up, I started using, because as the nerves begin to grow from the damage, they have to now grow from a different area. The brain has to tell other nerves to take place of the responsibilities of the nerves that got damaged and died. I started using, at that time it was called a therapeutic rub. Now we call it the intense rub, because when the nerves grow, your body is on fire. And so I've been using the therapeutic rub, and it's had a phenomenal benefit to allow me to deal with that very severe pain that I have on a daily basis as my nerves begin to grow. I also got so excited when we came out with our pink ribbon bundle that helps deal with predominantly women who had breast cancer, to be able to stop them from needing to be silent and to actually utilize the bundle that has the intense rub, the 1,000 milligram tincture, as well as the PDQ, or the pretty darn quick topical spray, to get the relief that they have because they've had chemotherapy treatments and other things. And I have personally worked with women who have used the pink bundle and are finding pain relief, and some of them have been in military service. So again, the CBD is just such a godsend that has been put together by our opportunity, and it is making a major impact not only with military, but everyone who has different ailments of anxiety, depression, inflammation, overweight. We also have the products, I've used it myself, Captivita, which has caused my diabetic situation. I'm a type 2 diabetic. It's got me to the point where I no longer use any medications. I was using 13 medications after my cancer and strokes, and now I only use 2 mandatory medications, Eliquis, which is used for prevention of blood clots, and Keppra, which I have to use because once you've had a stroke in the District of Columbia where I live, you're required to be on stroke medication, in my case, Keppra, because if I have an accident and I'm not on the medication, then you automatically have to go to jail because it's like, you knew ahead of time that you were at risk of losing control of your vehicle. And I'm actually driving as we speak, and my wife Summer is holding the phone so I can talk with you. So I'm just really blessed and honored to be able to serve our country, and more importantly, these fine men, women, and civilians who have risked it and sacrificed so much for our country. And the fact, Troy and Pastor, that you are putting together this forum to give ourselves and other veterans who will benefit and listen to this information and realize there's an opportunity without using opioids, steroids, and narcotics to actually get back to a homeostasis or stable state through the use of CBD. And I'm just so blessed that it's come into my journey while I've been in the opportunity from a wellness perspective. And basically, that's kind of in a summary what has happened in my brief journey on this earth of almost 70 years.
Well, thank you for that personal testimony for sure. And a couple questions I have for you. Have you been able to reach out to some of those servicemen and servicewomen that you actually serve with to help them with the CBD?
Yes, I have reached out to my best friend who also has retired because he's a cancer survivor, and he's interested in utilizing the product. I've reached out to some other veterans to not only provide them with products and services, and specifically wellness products that they are using to benefit them, but I'm also trying to get them to join the opportunity because they know a lot of veterans that I don't know, and if they're in the opportunity, they can be more proactive and aggressive in seeking out the veterans that they know so we can help more people as fast as possible gain relief from the experiences that they've had in combat and other situations supporting our great country.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that you do coffee and tea. We're talking about CBD coffee and CBD tea, correct?
Correct. And so what I was doing before the CBD coffee and tea came out, I was constantly using our wellness coffee that has niagen in it and MCT oil. Those were things that were benefiting me from a physical standpoint before we actually came up with the CBD version of coffee and tea. So you're absolutely correct.
And your doctor, who noticed the change in your brain in at a rapid recovery rate, so much that he is looking to not only utilize it in his practice, but look at the opportunity to see how he can get more involved and bring this to the mainstream, which is phenomenal. It's just amazing, because we know one of the issues is TBI, traumatic brain injury, with our soldiers. So again, and it's critical, it's vital that we get this information to them. There are so many organizations doing tremendous work for our veterans, and my goal is that we together can get this information to those organizations so that it can be distributed to the masses. We have to get this network growing to just let the people know that there is an alternative out there to all the narcotics and the opioids and the antidepressants, and I'm going to get into that as we get down a little bit later into the podcast. But Mr. Campbell, I know you're on the road. You're about to do a presentation, but go ahead. You have something else to say? Yes.
Just add one quick thing because it's right on time with what you just shared. This doctor was at MedStar. I was privileged to work with a Dr. Jadeo, who has joined the opportunity as well, and she had a PBR at MedStar with pharmacists, internists, oncologists, neurologists, and other doctors, colleagues that she has. And at the end of the session, when they heard I'd had 5 cancers and 3 strokes, they then poured into me what they were trying to do to impact other people who served in the military and people in general through the use of CBD, and they're finding tremendous success in relieving seizures, working with adolescents, those who are pediatrics. And so this excitement, this reality is setting in that we have to really eliminate the use of opioids, synthetics, and narcotics and get back to what's all natural, the plant-based cannabidiol oil or CBD, and our opportunity has the purest. And I'm so blessed because I can prove to people that all CBD is not equal, and how our CBD, as in fact, the genuine 100% pure cannabidiol oil. So it's such a blessing, and it's even a greater blessing that you have given us the privilege to be on this forum with you and the awesome pastor. Thank you so much.
Well, you are so welcome, and thank you for all the good work you're doing. Again, I know you're out there traveling across the country. Right now you're in South Carolina getting ready to do a presentation and spread the good word of CBD. And I just want everyone to know that we will be going out and we'll be traveling together as people request this presentation to come live into various cities and towns. I just want the people that will be listening to this to know that Roscoe, Pastor Lawson, and myself, we are available to come and talk to your organization. Wherever you are, we travel, so we'll work that out. But again, Mr. Campbell, thank you so much. And Miss Summer, the lovely Summer, the wife of Mr. Campbell, thank you so much for holding the phone and just for being a rock in your husband's life. And we appreciate everything you do.
Amen. And continue your prayers, because we are going to be in Charleston Air Force Base very shortly.
Oh, say hello to all my Air Force people down there, all right? I appreciate that. Thank you so much. God bless you, and we will talk to you soon.
All right, take care. See you later.
Take care now. Good night. Okay, that was amazing. I can't even believe just the challenges and the obstacles that Lieutenant Colonel Roscoe Campbell has overcome. Just amazing testimony. But Pastor Lawson, you have an amazing story. I can't wait for the people to hear this, how you have overcome your own obstacles and attribute the CBD to what you have had to deal with in your life. So if you can please just let the people know a little bit about you and then talk about how CBD has been integrated into your life. Pastor Lawson?
Yes, I'm talking to myself because I had the line muted.
Okay.
Sorry. I heard everything you said. But I want to thank Roscoe for sharing his powerful testimony.
Yes.
Of how he has overcome several strokes. It's amazing. God has been good to him. Now, I spent 20 years in the United States Army, and I did not go to Desert Storm or Desert Shield. I didn't go to combat. I had stresses in a non-combat environment. I retired as a sergeant first class. I was an enlisted man in the United States Army. And I had several tremors. When I took my first flight to Korea in December of 1973, the right engine on the plane that I was on board went out. And
wow.
The pilot informed us that the right engine had gone out on the plane, and that he was going to turn around and try and make an emergency landing in Alaska that was my first flight ever. And in my mind, I just knew I was going to die.
Wow.
But we made it back to Alaska safe. We flew out of California, Travis Air Force Base, and we made it to Alaska safe. And eventually, I made it to Korea. But that incident had a lasting impression on my life. For a long time, I did not fly on an airplane. Whenever the Army sent me someplace, I drove there. I was too afraid to get on a plane.
Wow.
When I had to go overseas, I would tell the stewardess on the plane to give me something to put me to sleep. I didn't want to wake up until I got to the other side. I fly now, but I still have reservation, and I just say, well, it's in the Lord's hand.
Yes.
Yes. And when I got to Korea, prior to my completion of my tour there, in August of 1974, the president's wife was assassinated in Korea, and I was the lone person in the Army. We called it charge of quarters. And the telephone rang, and the various units on the peninsula started identifying themselves, and I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. That was another night that I thought I was going to die. So I just kept things to myself. And then when I was in Europe working in war plans, I saw so much sensitive information that just scared the daylights out of me, of what the Russians had, etc. So for a long time, I found myself being isolated from people because there was just something happening within me mentally that I could not figure out. So I kept things inside. And I never went on sick call or anything like that because I didn't want to lose my access to top secret information. Having that super top secret clearance was a plus for me as far as promotion is concerned. And I was able to make it through my military career, my 20 years, by the grace of God.
Amen.
After I got out of the military, well, as a matter of fact, I started pastoring while I was at the White House 5 years before I got out of the military. And I had to deal with nightmares. And I still deal with nightmares even now, and I've been retired 26 years. The point I want to make is, if it hadn't been for my faith in the Lord, I wouldn't be around now. I know that. But I just kept, trusting in the Lord. Information I'm sharing now, my church was not aware of it. But there were times when things would surface, and they would notice it. But 2018, to make a long story short, I can just sum things up here. 2018 was a very difficult time for me. I went into severe depression, and I couldn't keep this from anybody. This time last year, I was going into deep depression. I did not have a good Christmas. I was taking medication from the VA, but that medication didn't really do anything for me. As a matter of fact, it made things worse. So from this time last year, really from October of 2018 until June, or shall I say the end of May of this year, 2019, I felt like I was down in a hole with no opportunity to come out. no options of getting out. By March, I thought I was dying. To me, the only way out of my situation was suicide.
Wow.
That's just the way I felt. I lost hope and interest in a lot of things. The things that I had once enjoyed, I had lost all hope in them. I thought life for me was coming to an end. And then my brother introduced me to something called CBD, and in my mind, it was another waste of time because there was nothing that could help me. I had already tried about 3 different medications from the VA, and they didn't help. So when my brother told me about the CBD, I called the health food store to talk to the manager there. And the lady told me that it will help. I just couldn't believe it. One thing she said that got my attention and gave me a little hope that it could possibly help me is when she said, doctors come to me to buy this hemp oil. And so my brother sent it to me, and I tried it. On the 3rd day, to my surprise, I started feeling a little better and a little more hopeful.
Okay.
I continued to put the drops under my tongue once a day. Looking back now, I should have been doing it about 3 times a day. But I was told to put it under my tongue once a day.
Okay.
By the 4th of June, to be exact, I came up out of that hole thanks to God's grace and CBD oil. I had rheumatoid arthritis in my fingers, both of my index fingers, and that went away within about 10 days of taking the CBD oil. From the 4th of June until now, I have been a free man, free of the depression, free of the hopelessness. I gained my desire back, desire to pastor the church, desire to plant my vegetable garden, the desire to go and fish, and I got my appetite back. I had lost so much weight until my clothes were too large for me. I had to cut holes in my belt. And the clothes that were too small for me in the past were the ones that I was able to wear. I still had them in my closet, so I had 2 suits that I could wear. They were too small for me in the past, but it was that CBD oil that just turned things around for me. It was unbelievable, and I thank the Lord for CBD oil. And then I decided that since CBD oil gave me my life back, that I was going to make it my business to distribute CBD oil, become a distributor to help other people.
Yes.
And then I was listening to the news one day, and an individual who works in the government here in D.C. was fired from his job for taking CBD oil. He had to take a urinalysis test, and it showed up in his urine. And I said, "Oh boy, here we go." I wanted to be a distributor of CBD, and now there is a downside to it. Well, guess what? Oxzgen CBD does not have THC in it.
Yes.
It's untraceable. And so, boom, my motivation came back, and I am now marketing Oxzgen CBD. It is changing the lives of people, and it changed my life, and I cannot remain silent. I have to tell somebody.
Yes.
Yes, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm grateful for Oxzgen CBD.
Well,
that's my brief story.
Well, amen, Pastor, and thank God that you had the breakthrough, because it sounds like you were in a dark, deep place, and you came into the light, and again you climbed up out of that hole, and you got to level ground, and now you're climbing the higher ground. So that is a tremendous story that other people, not only veterans, but people in general, society needs to know, because there's a lot of people out there we know that are going through depression. And as Mr. Campbell and I spoke, we are going to take this to cities and different organizations and get the word out there for sure, because we are all on a mission to make sure that our servicemen and servicewomen know that there is an alternative out there. And I'm just so proud to have you gentlemen by my side with this journey. Now, a lot of people don't know that, there's 20 veterans that take their life every day. And a lot of that is because of depression. Yeah. And that can't be. That's too, one is too many. But when you're talking up to 20 servicemen and women every day taking their life, that's unacceptable. And it should be on the news every day. Yeah. I mean, there shouldn't be one day per year that's proclaimed Veterans Day. It should be Veterans Year, Veterans Decade, because so many men and women have given their lives so that we can live free. Yeah. And that shouldn't be given a day. Are you kidding me? I'm offended every time Veterans Day comes around. I'm offended, because it should be more than a day of recognition. Yes. For what people like Lieutenant Colonel Campbell and you have done. You know what I mean? I remember I used to work with wounded soldiers at Walter Reed, and just talking to those soldiers who would come back with various, amputations and all types of surgeries that they had to go through, legs, hips, backs, shoulders, brain. I mean, just my heart used to go out to them. And a lot of times just the conversation would be healing, just conversation with someone. And at that time, there was no CBD, at least not available to us like it is now. And I just wish I had known about CBD back then, because some of those soldiers, unfortunately, did take their lives. And I felt terrible. I felt a loss, because I was unable to help them. I had no solutions. And you know what I mean? When you have somebody in front of you that's hurting and you want to help, but words aren't enough, you feel hopeless. Yeah. So we're on the front line here, and again, I'm reaching out to all of those organizations, any veteran, anyone that's listening to this podcast. Reach out. We have answers. We definitely have answers. But I just want to just let people know what's going on out there. And you mentioned you were on 3 medications that you had received from the Veterans Administration. Now, I'm talking the Veterans Administration. I'm not going to talk bad about them, but they don't know. They just don't know. So we need to educate them too. But there's a lot of. Go ahead, Pastor.
I was probably on about. I was just taking 3 at that particular time. They diagnosed me in 2016 with PTSD, and because that's when I went for 2010, I just couldn't keep it in anymore. I had to go and talk to someone. And they put me on several different medications, and none of them worked for me. None of them.
Gotcha.
They made things worse.
And that's normal because just to give people an example, with PTSD, which stands for post-traumatic stress disorder, if you didn't know, U.S. News and World Report, U.S. Health News, said there's up to 20% of veterans from Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom that suffer from PTSD. Now, that's a little over 2 million soldiers right there, men and women, and you're taking 20%, that's roughly 400,000, just from that little small snippet of soldiers in war. That's not even counting Desert Storm and the Gulf War and other wars going back to Vietnam. So we're talking millions of our people that are suffering from PTSD. And then you talk as other orders, SUD, SUD, substance use disorder. You have the PTSD. You have TBI. I talked about that earlier, the traumatic brain injury. You have the depression. You have suicide. You have chronic pain. You have amputations. We can go on and on and on about what people, our veterans, are dealing with. And then I just want to talk a little bit about the antidepressants. And there's a lot. Our soldiers are being over-medicated because nothing's working, and so they add medications until something gives. And a lot of times it's the health of our men and women that give. And forgive me if I pronounce these wrong, but tricyclic antidepressant, there's fluoxetine, there's sertraline, there is sertraline, thank you, Pastor. Mm-hmm. There is selective serotonin. There is a couple more. These are some of the big ones here that people are taking. Somebody just sent me a message. I'm sorry. Can't answer that right now. And the last one I want to mention, because this one was key, it was citalopram. And that seems to be a popular one, citalopram. But some of the side effects, Pastor, and this is key. This is key. Some of the side effects of some of these medications that our people are taking is insomnia, skin rashes, headaches, joint and muscle pain, stomach complications, diarrhea, nausea, and reduced blood clotting capacity. That's just some, to name a few of the side effects that our people are getting from these antidepressant medications. And we know with the CBD, there's been no side effects associated with it. It's all natural. It's a plant. So it doesn't interact with any medication that you're taking. And a lot of times, as Lieutenant Colonel Campbell said, you're decreasing the medications that you're on to the point where you are eliminating them. So people, you really need to know about CBD. And as Mr. Campbell said, that not all CBD is created equal. There's a lot of junk out there. But the CBD we are referring to, it's an Oxzgen brand, Oxzgen. The owner and the brand ambassador is two-time NBA champion Juwan Howard, and his mission is to help people and save lives and impact lives. And again, that's what our mission is to do, is to reach out to you, the organizations, our veterans, and anyone who is suffering from any of these diseases, chronic illnesses, depression, anxiety, brain, behavioral, pain. Please reach out to us. We are here to help you. We love you. We care about you. And do your research. But stop taking all that medication, because most doctors are for profit. Most doctors are for profit. The more they prescribe, the more money they make. The FDA, they are approving these drugs. They approved oxycodone. They're taking their time with the CBD because there's no money in it for them. There's no kickbacks from the pharmaceutical companies. And we know pharmaceutical companies are being sued all the time for not letting the public know what those drugs really do. And by the time we find out, we've lost many lives. Communities are being destroyed. People are addicted in the millions. So do your research. Try CBD. If you have a loved one, get the CBD for them. Let the doctors see. You will hear the results. As Lieutenant Colonel Campbell said, you will see the results. And that sometimes they're gonna look miraculous, because you're not flooding your body with those narcotics and opioids. You get to the point of homeostasis, and that means the natural balance that you were born with. No substances in your body. So please, again, reach out to us so we can help. We are here for you, and we won't stop getting this word out. It's only beginning, and it will not stop, I guarantee you, until we are at 0% suicides every day from our veterans, and no PTSD that's not being treated with CBD, because we know we're going to help. So again, Pastor Lawson, thank you so much for being a part of this, and I look forward to walking this walk and being in this journey with you. And again, folks, and to my veterans out there, again, we have special programs as far as getting this CBD for you. We have what we call preferred veterans pricing. We are not in this to get rich. We are in this to enrich lives. So please reach out to us, and thank you so much. God bless you for your service to this amazing country that we call the United States of America. And you do not have to suffer anymore. You are not alone. You are not alone. We are here for you. So all you have to do is reach out. God bless you, everyone. Thank you so much, and have an amazing night. Happy holidays and Happy New Year into a new decade of Vision 2020. Be safe, be prosperous, and be healthy. Good night.
Good night.